Welcome to today's news clips. Before we get started, I want to thank you for coming to my channel and thank you for supporting me. The viewers that I have on my channel are the most awesome people in the world. I really mean that. You're the most awesome followers I could possibly have, and I really do appreciate it. The first item that I have on the agenda for today is a video from Dr. Phil, and the name of this gentleman is Mosab Yousef. He is the son of one of the founders of Hamas, and he has come out against Hamas and is speaking out against them all over the U.S. And I thought that you might appreciate hearing what he has to say, because he has the inside view on what's going on in Palestine. What UNRWA is, that's the UN-sponsored relief agency for Palestine. And they're the ones teaching the Palestinians to hate Jews.
Children are being inoculated with the belief that any and all means possible must be used to reclaim Palestine. UNRWA students openly parade in the streets and call for Israel's destruction. All of this occurs in plain sight, within the watchful eye of UNRWA teachers. These students are between the ages of 8 and 10 and have already received military training.
فلسطين عربية من المي للمية.
كيف حق العودة؟
هذا نرمى على اليهود حجار وندبح اليهود. إن نقتل اليهود وندافع عن وطننا.
لو شو ما يصير يصير، مش راح يصير سلام.
راح ناخذ حقنا، والله ينتقم منهم إن شاء الله يموتوا كلهم.
And parents, if their child is killed in the service of that, that's a good thing.
It's encouraged in that society.
And your father was fine if you got killed in that service.
Well, this is practically what he did in real life. When he had to choose between the cause and his own son, who saved his own life. In fact, I sacrificed everything to save his life. And my reward was to be disowned, shunned, and he publicly stated that my blood is allowed. That was some 12 years ago. 12 years before I disowned him.
Well, next, what Mosab says, students protesting for Palestine need to know that just might surprise them. But first, as we go to break, more shocking words from the mouths of young Palestinians.
بيدرسوك عن المقاومة؟ شو بيقولوا لك؟
إنه إحنا لازم جميعنا نأيد المقاومة، والمقاومين هم اللي لازم يرجعون لبلدنا، وهيك واللي بيتاخد بالقوة بيرجع شغل بالقوة.
أنا بقرأ اليهود.
يعني إنهم بيعلمونا بالمدرسة إنهم إرهابيين
إنهم هدول مش منيح، وهدول بقتلوا قاعدين بشبابنا. إذا بطعن أعمل عمليات الدهس.
At the ASPCA, we give a voice to the voiceless. We fight for those who...
Student organizations' reactions to the Hamas attack revealed a disturbing degree of ivy-covered intellectual rot. Americans nationwide have been appalled and shocked. The leadership of these supposedly highly sophisticated schools are so busy virtue signaling that words are violence, but violence, horrific, inhumane violence, is social justice, that they have forgotten it is their job to teach their students to think and to test reality. I was absolutely outraged about what was happening on college campuses, and I could not remain silent. I posted that message and more on social media. I'm here with Mosab Yousef, son of the Hamas co-founder. He turned his back on Hamas and is estranged from his family. He wrote a book, and here's what he says about these college protesters.
I love Hamas. I think Hamas.
Oh, you love a terrorist
Israel
organization.
Sandwich.
Interesting. Harvard Square.
They should be all exterminated. And their
Alright.
kids, their mothers, their children, just like Hitler.
Thank you.
To all those students, I say that it's very disappointing to see Americans supporting Hamas and thinking that Hamas is a cool thing. While Hamas...
I'm not going to play any more of this. You can watch it yourself. I have another video from Dr. Phil with more information from the same man. But let me just say this. There is no excuse for what Hamas did on October 7th. And if the Palestinian people are suffering now, it's not the fault of Israel, it's the fault of Hamas. They are the ones who caused the problem. I'll put both of the links for these videos into the description of my video. And then I have one other video, which I'm just going to bring up on the screen and show you briefly. Excuse me. It's an interview of Tucker Carlson with a man named Aleksandr Dugin, who is a philosopher. And as you'll see, he's an elderly man. And he has an interesting take on what's going on in the West.
Aleksandr Dugin is a 62-year-old Russian academic philosopher. He spent his life in Moscow. He was an anti-Soviet dissident as a young man. And now he is famous the world over, in the English language press anyway, as, quote, Putin's brain. But he is not a political figure here in Russia. He is, once again, a philosopher. And his ideas are deeply offensive to some people. In August of 2022, his only daughter was murdered in Moscow when a car bomb killed her. U.S. intelligence says she was murdered by the Ukrainian government, and we take that at face value. But what's interesting is that, once again, Aleksandr Dugin...
It's interesting he says that, because I wouldn't take... Excuse me. I would not take anything U.S. intelligence says at face value, period.
Is not a military leader. He's not a close daily advisor to Vladimir Putin. He is a writer who writes about big ideas. And for this, his books have been banned by the Biden administration in the United States. You cannot buy them on Amazon. Banning books in the United States because the ideas inside are too dangerous. He's often described, again, in the English language press.
Can you believe that? And they're complaining about parents taking sexually explicit books out of the libraries of elementary schools. You can't get any more hypocritical than that.
As far right. We'll let you assess. But we wanted to talk to him about some of his ideas, these ideas that are so dangerous that his only daughter was murdered over them, and his book's been banned in the United States. And so we're happy to have him join us now. Mr. Dugin, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and welcome to Moscow.
Of course, thank you. So we were talking off camera. Actually, we were having a conversation that we were not going to film, just interested to meet you. But what you said was so interesting that we got a couple of cameras and put this together. And my question to you was, what do you think is happening in the English language countries? And I said, all of them, United States, Canada, Great Britain, New Zealand, Australia, all at once decided to seemed to turn against themselves. And you had this great turmoil, and some of the behaviors seemed very self-destructive. And where do you think, as an observer, that comes from?
So I could just suggest, express my reading of that. It demands a little patience. So I think that everything started with individualism. So individualism, that was a wrong understanding of the human nature, of the nature of man. When you identify individualism with the man, with the human nature, you cut all the relations to everything else. So you have very special idea of the subject, philosophical subject, as individual. And everything started in the Anglo-Saxon world with Protestant reform and with nominalism. Before that, nominalist attitude that there are no ideas, only things, only individual things. So individual, it was the key and is still key concept that was put in the center of liberal ideology. And liberalism, as in my reading, it is a kind of historical and cultural and political and philosophical process of liberation of individual, of any kind of collective identity, collective or that transcends individual. And that started with refuse of Catholic Church as collective identity, of empire, Western Empire as collective identity. After that, it was a revolt against a national state as collective identity in favor of purely civil society. After that, there was a big fight of the 20th century between liberalism, communism, and fascism, and liberalism has won once more.
Yes.
So, and after the fall of the Soviet Union, there was only liberalism, and Francis Fukuyama has pointed out correctly that there are no more any ideologies except of liberalism, and liberalism that was liberation of this individual from any kind of collective identity. There were only two collective identities to liberate from gender identity, because it is collective identity. You are man or woman collectively, so you could not be alone. So liberation from gender, and that has led to transgenders, to LGBT, and new form of sexual individualism. So sex is something optional. And that was not just deviation of liberalism. That was necessarily elements of implementation and the victory of this liberal ideology. And the last step that is not yet totally made is liberation from human identity, humanity optional. And when now we are choosing, or you in the West, you are choosing the sex you want, as you want. And the last step in this process of liberalism, implementation of liberalism, will mean precisely the human optional. So you can choose your individual identity to be human, not to be human. And that has a name: transhumanism, posthumanism, singularity, artificial intelligence, Klaus Schwab, Kurzweil, or Harari. They openly declare that is inevitable future of humanity. So we arrive to the historical terminal station that we finally, 5 centuries ago, we have embarked in this train, and now we are arriving at the last station. So that is my reading. And when all the elements, all the phases of that, you cut the tradition with the past. So you are no more Protestant, you are secular, atheist, materialist. You are no more nation state that served to liberate from empire. And now national state becomes at its turn obstacle. You are liberating from national state. Finally, family is destroyed in favor of this individualism. And the last things, the sex that is already almost overcome, sex optional, and in gender politics, there is only one step to arrive to the end of this process of liberation, of liberalism. That is the abandoned human identity as something prescribed. So to be free from to be human, to have the possibility to choose to be or not to be human. And
I don't know about you, but my take on what he just said is that he's describing perfectly what's going on in the world today. We now have people who identify as animals. I'm serious. We have people who actually identify as animals. And he explains it perfectly. I can't imagine why his books are banned. It makes no sense to me at all, but they are. It's a fascinating interview. He talks about why, at a point in the past when the Soviet Union existed and communism was there, that liberals supported communism. And now that Putin is in charge, they're against Russia because Putin is trying to establish the state of Russia as an entity, and they're against that. It's really interesting discussion, and I think you will enjoy watching it if you have a excuse me, if you have a interest in that sort of thing. But anyway, that's my news for the day. I pray for you that you will have an abundant life and that you will live a long time, that you will be healthy, and that God will keep you safe from harm. I pray that He will do the same for every single person that you love. And I pray most of all that you, my viewer, will be anxious for nothing, but in all things, through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, you will make your requests known to God. And the peace that passes all understanding will keep your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. This is the Vietnam Era Vet out.